Welcome to Next Gen Leaders, my friends. My name is Belyshev, and I'm once again glad and excited that I have this opportunity to continue in this lesson, to continue in this curriculum, and as we're going to be covering another very important subject matter, and in lesson 3 in this specific session, that we're going to be focused on leadership characteristics and qualities. In other words, it's the DNA of every leader. So what is our character? What are the qualities that we possess? It's something that has to do with us as a person, as an individual. Some of us may have one specific unique character trait to us. Some of us may have more of those unique character traits. But nevertheless, in this specific lesson, I'm going to be focusing concerning our inner man, our character, our nature. And the dictionary defines character this way. We're going to be actually starting on page 3.1. If you have a curriculum in front of you, if not, you have an opportunity to download this PDF on whatever electronic device that you might be using. You can download it, follow the screen. You can actually print it out, which will be even much more better. But on page 3.1, the definition defines character this way. That character is moral or ethical quality of an individual, which is our frame of mind, our habits, our morale, our nature, and our personal reputation, so on and so forth. And this means that what? Everything that about us, all of us will carry our own specific characteristic traits. And will be remembered by some of our characteristic traits. Like, people may also remember us by some of our good habits and bad habits. So our character, in a sense, or characteristic traits, carry certain pattern to them. And by those patterns, we are able to operate, we're able to function, we're able to relate to others. And right now you can possibly think of a certain individual, a man or a woman whom you look up to. It could be your parent, it could be your pastor, it could be your spouse, it could be your role model, your spiritual mentor, and there's something unique about their character. There's something, this specific thing that attracted you to him or to her. For example, in my personal life, I have 3 spiritual mentors, and one of them, he's a pastor. And when I first encountered him, there was nothing too special about this individual. But over these years, and even over those beginning years of our interaction, our fellowship, I found something unique about his heart, this unique meekness and humbleness. So if I can describe one of my spiritual mentors in a couple of words, it would be humility and meekness. And I remember even our numerous conversations just by talking with this individual, he was not boastful, he was not trying to prove a point. And even when he was trying to share some thoughts with me, he would always say this: Stan, remember, don't make a doctrine out of this. Because some of the things we share with me, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, that is great, that is wonderful. But he's like, even if it may sound good to you, still don't make a doctrine out of this. Don't make some kind of a law out of this, or because it could something that could pertain to my personal life, but don't use it as a tool or as a method to possibly go and indoctrinate others or create some kind of a theology out of this. So I found a couple of those specific unique characteristics and traits in one of my spiritual mentors. So as we're going to be going through this lesson, I want you to analyze your heart. Throughout this whole lesson, throughout all of these sessions, what are some of these unique and special characteristic traits and qualities do you as a person possess? I believe all of us have something special. For some of us, it could be humor. For some of us, it could be our positive attitude. For some of us, it could be we're outgoing. For some of us, it could be other many things. So as we will go through this lesson and through these sessions, see how much of this you'll be able to reflect in your personal life. And at the same time, as we're going to dive in deeper, see how much you will be able to, in the process, learn together and discover many things. So before we continue, as I always do in the beginning of every lesson and at the end of every lesson, I have one of my leadership stand verbs. By now, you probably already know what those are. If not, and you're starting off with this lesson, well, the leadership stand verb, or it could be leadership Mike verb, leadership Bobby verb, leadership Stacy verb, whatever it may be. Put your name in here. It's something that involves our character, also our nature, our mind, and attitude. And this one specifically, top of the page, it says this: a leader is driven by the fear of the Lord, while the follower is driven by the fear of man. Simply said that this has something to do with our hearts. That when the fear of the Lord is directing us and guiding us, then we'll be able to lead not other our life personally, but also lead others to their greater success, and we'll be able to lead them in the right direction. But in comparison, that if we're driven by the fear of man and we allow others to influence us in the wrongful way, but not allowing the character and nature of God and Christ within us to lead us, then of course it's going to lead us in different directions. So that's just for the beginning start. So again, let me once again underline characters. The dictionary defines it this way, that it's a moral or ethical quality of an individual, which means it's a frame of mind, a habit, a morale, nature, personality, reputation, spirit, or a trait. Just all of those above, which defines what is character. And Martin Luther King Jr. has a very powerful statement in a quote by saying this: "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Very powerful. And I'm sure he has proven that through his short-lived life before he was assassinated, that he's proven it, that let his life and let every life, especially of a believer, especially of a child of God, especially of every Christian, that we should not be judged by our status, by our character, by our position, by our authority, by how many things we have done in our personal life, or how big our church is, how big our ministry is, or successful ministries, but we're going to be judged by our character, by our traits. We're going to be judged by the things we do, how we live out our life. We're going to be judged by our habits, by our lifestyle, so on and so forth. So when we're talking about character, it's not a one-time thing, it's not a specific thing, it's a continual thing. That it's literally, I can put it this way, that our unique character of who we are and that we've built within us, it's almost like footprints that we'll leave, or almost like fingerprints that we will leave imprinted into those things that we do in our everyday life. So let's dive in. Character. And I have a bunch of bulletin points over here. What is character? Character is the principle, or it's a law. It's not just some kind of a thing. It's a principle. It's a law. It's something that we go by. In other words, in our personal life, we create unique, specific things, guidelines that we follow by, which is guided by our character, by our integrity, by our belief system. It's something that is almost like a measuring stick. That if you feel that something does not align with your character, with your inner nature, with the principles and values you live by, that means you begin to make actually the decisions based on whatever the circumstance may be. So if the conversation does not align with your character, if what you're doing, if what you're watching, if with whom you're interacting, if certain things do not fall in alignment with your character, the things that you stand for, that means you make a decision based on it by saying, look, I'm no longer going to continue this conversation. I'm no longer going to watch this. I'm no longer going to do this. So that's why the character is like a principle. It's like a law that becomes like a law to you and a guiding principle that you go by. Next, character is your identity. This is one of my most passionate subjects and titles. I even have a whole lesson dedicated to that called Can I See Your ID? It's something that characterizes you as a person. By saying that, look, this is what I hold on to. This is my value system. This is with what I identify with, or with whom I identify with. And most of all, us being as God's children, we need to always identify ourselves with our God, with our Heavenly Father, with His Son Jesus Christ, and with what God's Word has to say. We need to continue to align ourselves with that. So next, character gives you reputation. It does. If you have a good character amongst fellow men, amongst others, you'll have a good reputation. But if you've blown it, if you keep on continually doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, if you say one thing and do totally the opposite, well, guess what? That's going to diminish your character. And I'm sure you may right now, not to be judgmental, but even right now you can possibly think of one specific individual. It could be your boss, a manager, somebody you work with. It could be possibly somebody within the church, within the ministry, within your team, maybe even amongst your family members, that because of their wrongful choices and decisions, their lifestyle and their behavior, they've ruined their character. They have a bad reputation. And every time you hear their name, you're like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And this is a sad thing. Even throughout the whole scriptures, we see great individuals that have ruined their character, that have ruined their reputation. You know, Samson, he messed up with Delilah, but eventually, obviously, he came back into God. We can just go through the whole list. that they've have given themselves a bad name, a bad reputation. This is very important for us as leaders, for us to always to grab this, that we need to always keep our reputation at the highest level, because it reflects everything we do and say. Next, character determines who you will follow or listen. In other words, if you have a certain value system, then you're going to know, you know what, I shouldn't be listening to this person. I shouldn't be watching this. I shouldn't be even listening to this. I should not even be in this specific atmosphere. Why? Because you follow certain guidelines within your heart, within your spirit man, that you have created for yourself. You said, you know what, this is not the atmosphere that I need to be in. These are not the people that I need to be hanging out with, or this should not be the people or that I need to be listening to. Or it could be, music, it could be some kind of teachings, or whatever the case may be. And it's very important that you have that value system inside of you, which reflects your character. Next, character shows what you value. Again, we just talked about this. If you have a strong character, strong personalities, and a belief system inside of you, you're going to be able to say, look, does this have value to this? Or does this person have value? And it's going to be able to guide you. Because as soon as you lay down your guard, you start doing things you're not supposed to be doing. You start saying things that you're not supposed to be saying. And from that, obviously, it's going to reflect what is your value system. Simply said, gossiping. Do you freely talk about, other people behind their back? Do you just easily say, oh, do you know about him? Do you know about her? Do you know about them? And if you fall into that category, that says a lot about my inner character, if we're continually talking about someone behind their own back. Next one, character shows others what your standards are. Again, our boundary lines. Do you have certain boundaries? Do you have certain standards which are also based on your value system? And if you do, follow them. But if not, that means it's like you're driving on the road on a two-way lane and just kind of going from lane to lane. Well, guess what? You're going to create some hazardous driving, and you're going to possibly even get into an accident or even get pulled over. In other words, when we create these certain standards, they're like boundaries. They keep us in line in order, saying, okay, you know what? Don't overstep this boundary. Don't overstep this barrier. So that also goes down to our own character. Next one, character reveals itself in our words, in our actions, and in our choices. Again, this is based out of our own value system. How we value things, how we value others, is going to determine, of the words we use, the actions we take, so on and so forth. So if our character is corrupt, then it's going to be expressed in our behavior and even in our words. And even I can go as far as saying this, maybe it will go a little bit further. It's even the type of words that we use. There's good jokes, there's bad jokes, there's dirty jokes. There's good conversations, and there's conversations you should not probably even get yourself involved into. All of that will determine based on your and my character. Next one, character will either open or close doors of opportunity. If you've blown your character, if your character is out of proportion, you have a bad reputation, well, guess what? Some doors that should have been opening to you, they're no longer going to open up to you. And for example, let's take a job or your workplace. And if you've already ruined your reputation, if you have bad work habits, and all of a sudden an open door it has for a promotion or to receive another position, and you fill in within the company, and all of a sudden as the management is reviewing, saying, hey, look, we're not going to be giving this person a higher position, which involves more responsibility and accountability, because they can't even come to work on time. They're always complaining about everything at work. And then next you notice, even though you may have more seniority, you're not being offered that position, but somebody in lower seniority than you is, and you get disappointed. Why? Again, we have to keep in mind that people are watching us. Yes, God is always watching us, but people are continually watching us. And those characteristics and qualities that we possess, they're expressed in our everyday life. Next, character does not have a good side or a bad side, but it always shows the real you. Okay? So it all depends. What do you want others to see about you? You may do a very good job at putting on a masquerade. You may do a very good job by hiding some of your weaknesses. But if that becomes part of your character, which is almost like your daily thing, it almost becomes like a hobby, like a habit that you do not even notice how you're normally expressing it. And through that, you're allowing other people to see, your side. Is it a good side, a bad side? And actually to show who you really are. Next, character will determine who are your friends and the type of relationships you have. This is very, very important in friendships and in relationships. And if you are right now to analyze some of your friendships right now with individuals, group of individuals, or maybe some of your relationships or a relationship that you could be in right now, it's all going to be based out of your character, what you choose. You know, and I'm sure you probably know certain people, or even right now in your personal life, there's a reason why you choose not to be friends with him or with her. There's a reason why you choose not to go to certain places. There's a reason why you choose not to hang out with certain individuals. Why? Because you already know what kind of heart and what kind of character they possess. And you know it's wrongful. They don't have a value system. You know, they just do whatever they want, however they want, and they do not even apologize for that. And I'm sure all of us, before we give our life to the Lord, we can right now reflect back on some of the friends we used to have. You know, a good portion of my friends, they did give their life to the Lord over the years, but even right now, as you do try to go back and do the memory lane, like, yeah, I remember this person, remember that person, and maybe some of them are not even saved right now, and they're still living by their just ungodly, immoral principles and lifestyles. And of course, if you do hold on to certain value system in your personal life, then you personally choose not to hang out with them or even to answer the phone. So this is very important for us, that it relates to our character. We choose, you know, what type of friends and or relationships we actually go into. Next one. Character gives value and worth to your words, and your words show what type of character you possess. Again, going back to our words, going back to our conversations. If you're just one of those loose people, you just say whatever and however, you know what? You will attract a certain group of individuals in a certain crowd. But if right now we're talking about ministry, if we're talking about leadership, guess what? People are following you. People are listening to you. And if you don't have a certain value system to that, people are like, look, you know, you may possess certain position, certain status, but the way you're talking, the way you're conversating, I'm not talking about grammatical errors. You're not putting words together. You're putting your dots and your commas in wrong. No, I'm talking about, as the scripture says, from the abundance of the heart, your mouth speaks. And our words are tied down to our character. They're tied down to our value system, our traits, and etc. So that's also very important. Next one, this is very important. Character will expose or reveal what your attitude or behavior is towards power, money, and the opposite sex. I even have a whole lesson devoted to this called the 3 Gs. In the ministry, the warning of the 3 Gs. So again, our character reflects how we're going to behave with the opposite sex, how we deal with money, with finances, and how we even deal or react to power and authority. In other words, but the fact that I'm talking to you, you're already possessing some kind of leadership traits and capabilities. And right now, you could be even having a position within a church, within your company, an organization. You could be your business owner, an entrepreneur. In other words, you know and you understand what type of position and status you currently have right now. And the question is, your character will reflect on that position, on that responsibility, on that calling that God has given you and has called you to. And the question is, if you're too attracted to finances, if you're too attracted to power, if you're too attracted to the opposite sex, well, especially if you're being married, and if you're not married and there's none of these boundaries, guidelines, guess what? That's going to reflect in your character. And if your character does have those boundaries, if your character does have a certain value system, then you'll be able to properly react and respond towards all of those. Next one. Character will expose your past, will show your present, and will determine your future. Very interesting. Some people can get stuck on their past. Some people are stuck on their present. And some people are not even thinking about their future. Because the things you can do right now can actually determine and even hinder your future by making wrongful choices. I mean, I can give you hundreds of examples. I mean, just simply sitting drunk behind a steering wheel, knowing that your vision is blurred, knowing that even you're breaking a lot of laws, and next you notice you got into an accident and now you're in a wheelchair. Again, that could be, a very extreme example, but it's a real example, or many other things. Saying, I wasn't standing strong, I was a little bit under influence, this and that. Next you notice you're in bed with somebody you're not supposed to be. So it could be so many thousands of different variations, and through these things you've already destroyed your character. Through this you already destroyed your reputation, and now you're trying to change things in your life. And I know, even people amongst, my relatives and people I have known very well, because of their wrongful decisions, they've ruined their reputation, they've ruined their character, and so on and so forth, and now they're trying to apply for jobs, they're trying to move on in life, but they still have that criminal track record that's continually haunting them, and it's hard for them. I do believe in God God's grace. I do believe in God's forgiveness. I do believe that God can open up unbelievable doors. I do. But again, we have to stick with reality, that there are certain things that will come and haunt us. I remember using this example within the youth ministry, and I said, look, guys, you can make a mistake by saying, okay, we were under influence, we were at a party, next to notice we ended up going to bed and we had sex. Okay, I understand these things happen and God can forgive you. But what happens when there's a result of that sinful act and now you're pregnant? Well, you can choose now to hide that sin by becoming an abortion, but you're now digging yourself a bigger hole. So, as I'm speaking right now, I've known certain individuals that had these situations. And thank God that they made a decision not to abort the baby, and to move forward to give birth to. But now, you have this child. Yes, God has forgiven you. But that was a result because of the wrongful choices you've made. And how many people have made those wrongful choices where they had to drop out of school, where their life just totally went in a whole different direction? I mean, they're still very young. They're age 16, they're age 15, they're age 17, so on and so forth. But now the fruit of their choice is already with them for the rest of their life, if they haven't made the choice, to abort the child, or many different circumstances. So this is very important concerning our character. Next one, character will reveal our heart, our desires, our feelings, and our attitude. This is also very important, that out of our character, things will flow out, how we behave, how we look at things, our feelings, our emotions, etc. Next one, character shows what type of foundation you have and what core values you hold. It's true. If you have a strong characteristic, if you have strong value system, that means you have a strong foundation. If you don't, well, guess what? Try building something upon a weak foundation. It's going to collapse. So as leaders, we need to always understand this, that we need to always build on a strong foundation, which is always, obviously, Jesus Christ, our rock, our foundation. But when it comes to our character, it will determine if our foundation is weak or strong. Next one, we're almost done with the session. Character will determine what choices and decisions you will make. Again, this is a daily thing. If you do have that value system, if you do have those certain traits that you follow, those guiding principles, those boundaries, then you'll be able to make out of them those specific choices. But if not, then you should not be surprised why this specific choice or the choices that you made are now coming back and haunting you. And last but not least, that I have in bold, character is the outward expression of your inner nature. So just to sum it up, that our character is our inner nature. It's something that shows who you are. It's almost like a painting that paints you in full colors. And as the saying goes, well, show me your true colors. Come on, don't be saying something that you're trying to hide something behind the back. Show your true colors. Show who you truly are. And this is what character actually does. And Dr. Miles Monroe says it again. Reputation is what others think about you. Character is the truth about you. And reputation is what you are in public, while character is what you are in private. And this is very, very important. And D.L. Moody also has this quote by saying, if I take care of my character, my reputation will take care of me. So as I wrap up this session, I'll be looking forward to the next session, session 2, where we're going to be diving in more deeper, talking about 30 specific characteristics, traits, and qualities. See you then.